Boys and girls, this is Mrs. Stone, and this is your writing lesson for today. I put down that you needed pages 3 and 4 on your assignment sheet. You will also need pages 7 and 8, and that's how I'm going to know if you did this video with me, is if 7 and 8 are done like I want. After you are finished with this, you're going to leave this in your binder, and I am going to check your binders when we get back to school. All right. You're also going to do your colored pencils, by the way. What we're going to do, and remember, always, if I go too quickly, pause it, catch up with me, and then you can start it off again. And I'm going to tell you right now, this program that I use to record my voice and stuff, it only lasts 15 minutes. This will probably take longer than 15 minutes. So you're going to need to look for a part 2. All right. So we are getting ready to write a narrative paper. And some of you have seen this before. Okay, some of you have never seen this before in your life. If you've not seen this before, I am going to take you through this step by step by step, and so you're not going to have to worry if you've never seen this before. For the ones who have seen it, it's going to be a great refresher, and we're going to try to improve on the skills that you already have. So this is called the narrative writing diamond, and what I'm going to do is go through the diamond, and then we're going to look at pages 7 and 8, and you're going to highlight some examples of each one of these. And so let's go ahead and get started. And the narrative diamond, the narrative paper that you're going to do is, you guys have been reading a book about Humphrey. And so Humphrey is going to take a grand adventure, and it can really be from any thing that he wants to do. Is going to be from his point of view. So point of view is not necessarily, it's not going to be an experience that happened to you. It's going to be an experience that has happened to Humphrey. Now you can have the experience with Humphrey, but it's going to be his experience, and you're going to be writing from his point of view. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is an entertaining beginning. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your red colored pencil, and I just want you to color the entertaining beginning part of that. Now, on our rubric, it's going to be about 2 or 3 sentences, and so it's not going to be very long. What the entertaining beginning does, it hooks the reader into wanting to read more. So it has to be very exciting, attention-grabbing kind of a thing. Now, what I'm going to do, the way I'm going to do this paper, is I will go through and we'll talk about the different ways that you can start a paper with an entertaining beginning. And then we'll go through all those steps, we'll look at them, and then what you will do is you will write your entertaining beginning to your Humphrey paper. And then I'll move on to the next step. We'll go through it, and then you'll write yours. So by the time we're done with all of this, you'll have a completed paper at the end. So this is going to take a good while. This probably you will not get done with this until right before Thanksgiving. So it's going to take us a while because I want to make sure everybody fully understands what I'm talking about. All right, so an entertaining beginning. If you look on page 7, all right, you have a story there called Treasure Hunt. All right, so it says, it says, the warm, sparkling water lapped about my ankles as I made my way along the tropical island beach. I was out for an afternoon of exploring, eager to discover whatever secrets the island might hold. Okay, if you'll notice, that's 2 very, very juicy and well-formed sentences, okay? But that is the hook to their paper. It's kind of introducing you and leading you into the story. So I want you to take your red-colored pencil, and I want you to highlight what I have up here on the screen, okay? So in red, you're going to highlight the entertaining beginning of this story. Now, like I said, if I go too quickly, pause it, finish highlighting, and then go back. All right. Next, we're going to talk about the elaborative detail. And the elaborative detail is about a story-critical character, setting, or object in your story, all right? It's a vivid description of a story-critical setting. On our paper, the Humphrey paper that you're going to do, you are required to give elaborative detail on the setting. In other words, where your adventure is taking place. This is only going to be one paragraph, and it's going to be about 4 to 6 sentences long. All right, so let's take a look at an example. Theirs is, I haven't counted, it's probably a little bit longer than 6. I don't know, I haven't counted. So take your green colored pencil, and you're going to highlight the stuff that I have up here on the screen. And while you're highlighting, I will read it. I glanced around. Palm trees swayed in the breeze. Huge, colorful flowers bloomed amidst thick, lush greenery. The sun glinted off of the jewel blue waters. I followed a narrow path that led away from the beach a bit. Suddenly, I came to a clearing of sorts, a peculiar circular area in which the vegetation had been hacked away. A pile of cut branches lay on top as if to cover or camouflage something. How strange, I thought. Who would have gone to all that trouble to cut away this patch of underbrush and then cover it up again? I scratched my head and looked more closely. I pushed aside the branches and noticed that the ground beneath looked as though it had been disturbed, as though someone had dug a hole. That is the setting. That is a very good description of the setting. If you closed your eyes and I read that to you, you could get a very vivid picture in your mind of where this story is taking place. That's what you're going to do for your Humphrey story. You're going to give me a great elaborative description of the setting, where your adventure is taking place. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to the next section. Okay, after the elaborative detail, we have suspense. So you notice I did that in purple, all right? So you should have entertaining beginning in red, elaborative detail in green, and suspense in purple. Suspense is anticipation leading to the main event. Okay, so we're going to talk about different ways that you can create suspense by using story questions, word reference, or the magic of 3. I think people always think that suspense is like maybe in a scary story. It doesn't have to be scary to have suspense in it, okay? We don't know what's happening in our story, The Treasure Hunt, but it's not necessarily scary. All right, so suspense does not have to be scary. So let's take a look and see what suspense looks like in our story, okay? If you look, it's the last paragraph of that, the setting one. My heart began to beat faster. Had something been buried here, I wondered? Okay, so that is kind of a story question. And in our story, you're going to have to use 2 story questions. But that's kind of leading you to, I'm getting ready to go into my main event. I'm going to explain all of this. And so you need to have a suspense come after your story critical setting. All right, so next what we have is we have the main event. This is going to be the biggest part of your paper, okay? So it says it shows action in slow motion, frame by frame, stretch it out, include description and main character's thoughts and feelings. Okay, so look over to the side. It says shows, not tells the actions, thought, and feelings of main characters. In other words, you're not going to use a lot of dialogue. You're not going to tell me what's going on. You're going to show me kind of what's going on. So there's a balance of action, description, thoughts, and feelings, dialogue, and sound. This is going to be your largest part. It's going to be 3 to 5 paragraphs long, and each paragraph needs to be around 7 sentences at least. All right? So this is definitely your largest part. Think about a movie. If your movie went from the setting and then, you say you were in a spooky graveyard, okay, and they described the spooky graveyard, and then they got to the main event and they said, somebody was trying to play a trick on me and it was very scary, and then they moved on. Well, they didn't tell me anything. So you have got to take the biggest part of your story, slow it down like you were creating sort of like a script in a play or something. You've got to show me that action. All right, so in our story that we've been highlighting, this is going to be the biggest part. So you're going to take your blue and you're going to highlight this, and while you're doing that, I'm going to read it. I looked this way and that, and confident that no one else was around, I began to dig. The earth flew beneath my fingers, and in no time at all, I had made a fairly deep hole. If I had a shovel, the job would have been much easier. That was when I noticed the cracked coconut shell on the ground. Perfect, I yelled as I grabbed for it. Its tough, curved surface made a handy scoop, and my task began to move along more quickly. Before long, my makeshift shovel hit something solid. I blinked the sweat out of my eyes, wiped my forehead with the back of my arm, and reached into the hole. I cleared away the last layer of dirt and gasped. It was the size of a large suitcase and made of smooth wood. I ran my hand along it and felt several cool brass fittings that spanned its curved top. A metal latch held it closed. It was a treasure chest. My heart raced and my stomach did a little flip-flop. My hands shook as I pried open the latch and lifted the lid. I closed my eyes for a moment and then peered into the chest. Okay, now their main event, I think that they can combine a lot of these little short paragraphs into longer ones. And so your paragraphs are going to be 3 to 5 sentences. It goes to the next page. My heart fell. It was empty. Apparently, some other treasure hunter had beat me to it. Sadly, I dragged the chest out of the hole. I stared into it, imagining the gold and jewels that probably once filled it to the brim. That was when something caught my eye. Something small and shiny, something wedged into the far dark corner of the chest. I reached in, grasping with eager fingers. It was a small gold charm. As I picked it up, I realized it was attached to a fine golden chain. I blew the dust off of it and held it up in the sun. It was an odd shape, and I turned it this way and that. Then it struck me. The charm was crafted into the shape of the very island on which I stood. I'd studied the map enough to recognize it, but there was something else, a tiny ruby chip set into the gold way off to one side. All right, so you see how they gave you the whole story. They gave you great description of exactly what was going on. That's going to be your main event. So let's take a look back at the writing diamond and see that the next section is the yellow section. And this is an action leading to a solution. Okay, I just presented my problem. Okay, now I have to solve it and give myself a conclusion. The reader wants a conclusion. The reader doesn't want to be left hanging in the air. Okay, so this is an action that leads to the solution, and this is going to be 2 to 4 sentences long, and it's going to be attached to the end of your main event. All right, so let's see what our story has as the conclusion. It says, "How unusual and beautiful," I thought, as I placed the chest back in the ground and carefully covered it back up. All right, so that was the end of the adventure. And now what's going to happen next is they're going to kind of give you a lead to what is called an extended ending. It's going to lead you in to a conclusion or something that may happen next. So let's go back and look at our writing diamond, and this is in brown. And so this is your extended ending. It's going to be consist of a memory, a decision, a feeling, or a wish. Now, in yours, we're going to talk about this more, but your extended ending has to include 3 of the 5 that we're going to talk about in your extended ending. So let's see what an extended ending sounds like, because I think some people don't really have an idea of what that is. So it's the very last paragraph. It says, "I hung the necklace around my neck. I realized that this leftover forgotten token would always serve as a reminder of my adventure, but not just a reminder. I was certain that the ruby chip marked the spot where the treasure had been buried. I decided to return again next year, perhaps, and see if there might be another forgotten treasure awaiting me." So the yellow is my conclusion of what happened to that particular story. The extended ending is basically going to tell me what's going to happen next. Okay, and so there's many, many things in here we're going to talk about. I used 3 different extended ending techniques that you're going to be, we'll talk about later, and you're going to write it for your Humphrey adventure. All right, so this is how you write a narrative paper. You're not here yet, okay? We're just going through the diamond, and we're going to start brainstorming let's see, it's either tomorrow, or you do it at home. Start brainstorming where your Humphrey adventure is going to take place and what's going to happen. And we're going to do a brainstorming page to kind of help you out. All right, so leave everything in your binder. I'm going to check it tomorrow. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And guess what? No part 2.